All right, welcome to this next episode of Chapel Chat. These next few episodes, really the next couple of months, we're going to spend talking about the character of God, who God is, to help us understand more about God. Now, before we even start, we have to understand one thing, and that one thing is that we are mortal beings. We have an ending, we had a beginning. God is not that way. So when we first come to the realization where we try to understand who God is, we have to have this humility that we might not fully grab the picture of it because He is eternal and we are not. At least everything we know in this life is not eternal. And we have a soul that lives on into eternity, whether that's eternity with God or eternity separated from God, spent in eternal death. But we have to understand that it's hard for us to grasp this concept of God because everything we know in this life quite literally has a beginning and an end. I'm just going to start with a few scriptures that help us grasp this idea that God is eternal. And this is what we're talking about with this first episode, just to give you some ideas about how God operates, who God is, and what He's all about. Genesis 21:33 says this: Abraham calls on the eternal God. Deuteronomy 33:27 says, the eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. Psalm 90 verse 2 says, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Psalm 93 verse 2, your throne was established long ago. You are from all eternity. And one more, I could keep going on. Isaiah 40:28. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. We have to understand that at God's very core, the nature of His being is to be eternal. And as human beings, as creatures in this physical body and in this form, having a beginning and an end, we have a hard time understanding this very idea. Eternal means without beginning or without end. The scriptures refer to God actually as the Alpha and the Omega, where He is literally the beginning and literally the end. This idea of eternal means we really have to adopt the idea that God can both exist within time, but also outside of time. So if God is not bound by time, it's easier to accept this idea of eternity. Eternity is quite literally a scale or a linear form of time that just doesn't have months, days, years, seconds, anything like that. Eternity is this idea that we are now removed from time because in eternity there's really no beginning and there's really no end. I like what Peter has to say in one of his letters where he says, to the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day, where God is not limited to this idea or to this concept of time. The amazing thing about God is He inserted Himself in to our idea of time, into our concept of how we view time and space, but yet He is not entirely bound by it. Jesus for a time was limited, but God and who He is not limited by time. I hope you find comfort in this, that even though we can't fully understand what it means for God to be eternal, we can trust the fact that we worship a God that we can't fully understand. If we could fully understand the God that we worship, there's a question there of, would He be a God worth worshiping? And I just hope that this encourages you that even though we might not fully comprehend what eternity is or how God is eternal, that He is, and we can trust that when we experience eternity one day, it's going to make sense. Have a great day.